kind of getting in the part of John, which I've never preached through John before. This is I know it's a 15, right? It's the 15th week. Okay. Everybody watching, it's the 15th week. I don't think anybody cares. I should stop putting a week up there. Anyway, this is the first time I ever preached through the gospel, but I'm in this part of John a lot, and so I feel like everything I have to say, everybody here has heard before, just not maybe all together at once. So because of that, I want to take a kind of a different approach to John chapter 11. There are people in the Bible that are Jesus' friends. There aren't many. We see his disciples, but he has three special friends that do show up, and that's Mary, Martha, and their brother Lazarus. And of course, what's going to happen this week is a very famous story concerning their brother Lazarus. But the story of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus actually starts not in the book of John, but in the book of Luke. And Luke actually introduces them to us. It's interesting. He only tells one story about him, and then John tells two more. So I'm going to go back and pick up that one in Luke first, because I really want to kind of look at this whole thing through Martha's eyes today. And she's kind of a pivotal character in this whole thing. She is a type A personality. We know that. And she's one of these women who's probably a little bossy, a little bit of a control freak. I don't know anybody like that personally, but we also know that she is kind of this kind of a person, because the house that Jesus visits is hers, which is very unusual in those days. And so she's not married. She has her own house, probably has her own business, and she kind of runs the family a little bit. And so she has a brother Lazarus, and she has a sister Mary. So we're going to kind of pick this up a little bit. Not in John, which is what this picture is showing. We're actually going to pick it back in Luke. See, Martha believed that Jesus was important. She knew he was important. Mary believed he was essential, and there's an eternity of difference between those two looks. And we pick this up in the Gospel of Luke. And it says, now it happened as they went. They're talking about him traveling around preaching. He's an itinerant minister, and they don't have a place to stay. They have money that's given to them, but they don't usually stay in hotels. They usually stay in people's homes, and if they can't do that, they sleep in the field. That's kind of how they're living. So as he entered a certain village, a certain woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. So she invites him over for dinner. Now, Jesus was a rising star. It's kind of hard for us to picture that, but remember, they're a theocracy in Israel, even though they're under Roman rule. And so the rabbis and the people in the church are their rock stars. And Jesus is rising. Everybody knows about him. He's the talk of the land, because probably the healings more than anything, but they also know he's confronting the Pharisees, which is the power of the day. And they're just talking about him a lot. And so when she hears Jesus is coming through, she invites him to her house. Now, that's a pretty big get, really. We see that in other places when they ask Jesus to come. It's a big get to get him to come. So he's coming, and Martha, being Martha, wants everything to be perfect. Picture Martha Stewart. The doilies have to match the drapes. Everything has to be absolutely perfect. She welcomes him into the home, and she had a sister called Mary, who also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. So here's the picture. He comes to the house, Jesus is there, and he's teaching, because he's always teaching, and he's around a table, and everybody's gathered around, and Mary plants herself right by him, listening to every word he says. Martha, however, is not there because she's busy making sure everything's perfect. So Martha was distracted with much serving. Come on, get those hors d'oeuvres out. They're dying out here. Come on, hurry. You can hear her in the kitchen, banging things. And Mary is oblivious to it all. She's just sitting there listening to Jesus. And so Martha goes to Jesus and says, Lord, do you not care that my sister, I love how she's really kind of talking to her sister here through Jesus. We still do that, right, in our prayers. Oh, Lord, please give Victoria patience and help her have peace and not be mad about this. That kind of thing. You talk to somebody through Jesus. Anyway, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? I'm all alone here. Tell her to get up and help me. Now, Now, that's something a good rabbi would do, because rabbis sit and women serve him. I don't know if you guys remember when Rabbi Kip came to do our Passover, but that's how it worked. He sat and he had people fetching for him. It was really amazing how you all just fell in line. You got him coffee and got him this, but that's how it happens. Rabbis just sit, not in our church. That's not how our teachers are treated, but that's how it goes in the Jewish culture. And so it was unseemly for Mary to be sitting there, because usually it's just men around him. To have a woman sitting there and just listening and not doing anything, clearly this was not protocol. So Jesus, tell her to do her job, is what he's saying. And except Jesus isn't going to do that. Jesus says, Martha, Martha, you're worried and troubled about many things. There's many things on your mind right now. Jesus can see her, right? He says, but only one thing is needed. And Mary has chosen that. And I'm not going to take it from her. I'm here. The Son of God's in your house. I'm teaching things that God himself wants you to know. And you're not listening. You're worried about the hors d'oeuvres. And so he says, no, I'm not going to do that. So we see now when he says this, many things, what the word means to be pulled in every direction, like pulled apart everywhere, physically pulled by every possible thing. And you all know what that feels like, right? We've all had some kind of a thing going on in our house where we're trying to do everything at once. Happens a lot at Passover. We're trying to make sure all the pieces are in place. But yeah, it's just like you're just feeling pulled from every place. And he's saying, I see that, but there's only one thing you should be paying attention to. There's only one thing that matters at this point. Now, when she was sitting at his feet, that's known as the Talmud. That's a posture. The phrase "sitting at his feet" means she's in the posture of a disciple. She's not just sitting there dreamily, thinking, oh, what pretty eyes he has. She's sitting at his feet as a disciple, taking in every word he says. He's a student, right? She was saying, whatever you know, I want to know. You're here, and I'm going to stay here until I know everything everything I can get out of you, I'm going to get out of you. Because, as Peter calls it later, your words are life. And so Mary was not being lazy. She was being attentive to the thing that mattered, because, as Paul puts it later, just that I may know him. And that's what Mary's saying. I just want to know him. I want to know him in the way Hebrew means know. I want to know everything he thinks. I want to know what he knows. I just want to know who he is. They haven't met him before. This is the beginning of their friendship, by the way. Never met him before. But she knows how essential it is that she gets to know him and get to know what he's thinking and what he's saying, and she's not going to give that up, right? Now, when Jesus says, Martha, Martha, we don't hear it the way Jews would have heard it, right? That was actually a tender thing. Martha, Martha. Not Martha, Martha. It was Martha, Martha. It's a tender thing. I'm going to instruct you now gently. This is a little tiny thing. He's not scolding her. And so what her complaint is she's not talking to Jesus about Jesus. You see that? She's not talking about anything he's saying. He's not paying attention to that. She's simply using Jesus to manage her sister. And Jesus isn't having it, right? So that's how we meet her. In her desire to create the perfect moment, she was missing the moment with Jesus. This is something that we kind of have to pay attention to, I think, sometimes in our lives, because we get busy with many things. And sometimes Jesus is trying to get our attention, and we're not hearing him. There's a difference between important and essential. She knew Jesus was important. That's why she invited him over, right? But he's not important. He is essential. Listen, you can serve somebody you don't even like. Waitresses do it every day. Probably the waitress at Olive Garden when I go there. I said, don't even like you, but I'll serve you, right? I will do it. But you can't love someone without wanting to be with them. And this is what Jesus is trying to tell her. Now, we're going to skip from there up to John chapter 11. This is the second time we see them interact with Jesus, and it goes like this. Now, if you remember last week, we finished it all up. Jesus had the little confrontation again with the Pharisees, and the people picked up stones again to kill him, and he walked out, and they didn't do it because they can't, because it's not his time yet. And they left there, which his disciples are going, whew, how many times are you going to try to kill him before we leave? We finally left. They finally left Jerusalem, and they're not there anymore. His disciples are probably breathing a sigh of relief. I mean, they literally watched people pick up stones twice to kill Jesus in the time they were there. Some festival, right? And so they're like, whew, finally we're away. And while they're away, we pick this story up now in John 11, a certain man was sick. I like how he always describes him as a certain man. It's Lazarus, Martha's brother. In Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. Therefore the sisters, which you know is Martha, says sisters, but you know Martha sent the letter. Maybe she had Mary sign her name on the bottom, but she wrote the letter. And it says this, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. It's like, this isn't just a random guy that you have heard of who's sick. You know him. He's a friend of yours. Lazarus is sick. And, they don't mention him by name, but since it came from Martha, we know who it is, right? He's sick. Behold, he is sick. Now, I want you to see that Martha's making the request based on a relationship, but not hers. She's not saying, Lord, remember me, Martha? You were at my house. We got to know each other. We had that little incident. I have a favor to ask of you based on us being friends. No. She's basing it on her brother's relationship. She still doesn't feel like she has a strong relationship with Jesus. Even after all that, right? Same woman, but she now has a tendency to look around because this is what she does. It's a little bit manipulative, but this is what control freaks do. If I ask him to come, he might not. But if I remind him that his buddy Lazarus, who is sitting there listening to him, because Lazarus would have been sitting there listening to him too, it's just she wasn't yelling at Lazarus because men didn't have to help. And so, that guy, your buddy, your bro, who is here listening to you, is sick. He's the one. Could you come for his sake? She doesn't try to say, would you come for my sake? She's not basing this on her relationship. She's basing it on Lazarus' relationship. So you can still see the tendencies there. But this is the part of the story that gets weird for me. Because it says, when he heard this, he tells his disciples, this isn't going to end in death. This sickness will not end in death. This sickness is for God's glory so that God may be glorified through it. Now, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. John wants you to know that. He really did. She wasn't just claiming a relationship that didn't exist. He really does love them all. They're friends of his by this point. So, that's that word there. That's so. So, when he heard that Lazarus was sick, you'd expect the next phrase is he got the fastest camel and boogied back to Jerusalem. Maybe not boogied, but boogieth back to Jerusalem. But it says, so, when he heard Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was for 2 more days. Wow. So? That's the word that gets me there. But maybe, but so? So, like, because of this, that's what that means. Because he heard he was sick, he decided to stay 2 more days. Wow. How many days would he have heard if he hadn't heard he was sick? Why is Jesus staying for 2 more days? It seems like he's just not concerned. It's like, this isn't going to end in death. So he waits 2 more days. And then after 2 days pass, he says to them, you know what? We're going to go back to Judea. Oh, that place they just tried to kill you twice, like in a week, Jesus, we're going to go back there. You can imagine how his disciples feel. Actually, we don't have to imagine because we find out how the disciples feel. They say, Rabbi, like last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever, they try to kill you there not once but twice. And you're going back there? We're all going back to there? That doesn't seem like a good place to go. And he says, well, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'm going there to wake him. And his disciple says, well, if he's sleeping, he'll get up. We don't need to go wake him. Let Martha do it. She's good, that kind of thing, right? But Jesus was actually saying he's already died. Jesus waited for him to die. That's what this Bible verse is telling us. The person, and John's making it clear, he loves this guy. But I'm going to wait for him to die. And then we're going to go. He's saying, plainly, he says, no, look, I was trying to be poetic here. I was trying to speak to you like a rabbi. Clearly, you didn't catch it. Lazarus is dead. Lazarus is dead. But for your sake, I'm glad I wasn't there. What a weird thing to say. I'm glad I wasn't there because you're going to believe something big after this. But now we have to go to him. So Jesus knows what's going to happen. Clearly, through this whole thing, he's known what was going to happen, but no one else can figure it out. But I love this line. Thomas, also known as Didymus, says to the rest of them, all right, well, you must us all go back and die with him, I guess. You know, I love this. You know, I just love it. Don't we all know a Didymus, that guy? Always like, I'm going to die now. Okay, can't get any better from here. Guess we're all going to die. I love Didymus. He's just like, yeah, okay, let's all go die. Whatever. We're his disciples. That's what we're going to do. So it takes 2 days for them to get there. On his arrival, Jesus found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now, these little details get thrown out, and we kind of miss them a little bit. But that actually is really important because in first century Jewish belief, the soul hovers near the body for 3 days. Now, we don't know why they thought that. We suspect it's because someone went into a coma and came back out of it or something. So people say, well, they're dead, but they're not fully dead. Kind of like the Princess Bride. He's partially dead, you know. But they're still there. 3 days. You got 3 days here. And, you know, Princess Bride written by a good Jew. So he probably would have known that. Because there were some instances, you know, where people were raised from the dead after a day or two in the Old Testament. But 4 days, that was it. You know, if it's been over 3 days, the soul is gone. They're dead, 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 dead. So Jesus waited until that moment because he knew what he was going to do, and he wanted it done in such a way that everyone would know something special had just happened. And so he was too late. He was too late. He didn't arrive just in time. He arrived too late. He deliberately arrived too late, right? So now, as soon as Martha hears that Jesus is coming, she went and met him because, of course, she did. Right? She's not going to wait for him to get to her, not Martha. When as soon as she hears it, she rushes out. She meets him at the gate before the village. She runs out to see him. And what's her first words? If you had been here, my brother would not have died. I know you have power. I know you could have done that, which is remarkable because there's nothing we saw in the first meeting that Jesus did anything miraculous. But she knows who he is. They're friends. She's heard. She may have even seen some miracles. She knows what he's capable of. He could have healed him before he died. She believes that. Says, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. That's why I sent for you. By the way, I sent for you 4 days ago when he was still alive, and you could have done something, right? Always moving, always doing, always managing. Now, when she says, if you had been there, it's called the window's closed. It means contrary to the fact. What the grammar Greek is very precise. She's saying it's too late. This time has passed. In other words, she is talking in the past tense. It would have worked. Now it won't. We had a chance. Now we don't. That window closed. That's the words that she's using here. That's the tense that she's using here. And he says to her, your brother will rise again. And now she's going to switch tenses. I want you to see this. She was talking past tense. If you'd been here, he'd still be alive. But she switches tenses to the future. She said, I know, one day he'll rise again. One day he'll be alive again. All Jews believed in paradise, even the ones who didn't understand what Jesus was doing. Yeah, I know. I know one day. Sure, I get that. I know that. See, she's still in the wrong tense, is what I'm trying to tell you. She started the past tense, if you had been. Now she says, yeah, one day. But Jesus is there now. He's in the present tense, right? It's theologically impressive that she believes that, but spiritually useless. Pharisees believe that. Her theology is focused now on the future, one day, eventually, someday. But none of that's going to help her grief right now. That doesn't help. One day, okay. Someday, maybe. So she shifted from the past tense to the future tense. But watch what Jesus says. I am the resurrection and the life. Not I will be, not I was. I am. And again, he's using that word that we've talked about so many times down the Gospel of John, where he's actually saying his memorial name. I am that I am. That's what it means. It's the Greek version of Yahweh. I am the resurrection and life. See, she was, if you had been on someday, he said, yeah, but I am here now. And I am right now the resurrection and life. And asks her, do you believe this? This is why he came. This is why he waited 4 days. Not for Lazarus' sake. He was going to be raised from the dead anyway. Not for Mary's sake. This is all for Martha's sake. And for ours. Through Martha, he's trying to say, do you believe that I am the resurrection? Do you believe who I am? Not who you want me to be, not who you thought I was, not who I'll be someday, who I am right now. That's what he's trying to challenge her. Your tense is wrong. We need to be in the presence, right? This is the same memorial name. We've gone through this. I'll move it through. His memorial name is not I was, that would be history. His name is not I will be, that would be prophecy. His name is I am, the present. Psalm 46, 1 and 2. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in times of trouble. Present. Now. Therefore we will not fear. It wouldn't help us if God used to do it. It wouldn't help us if God might do it in the future. But it helps when God says, I'll do it right now. I'm here right now. And she says, Lord, I believe you're the Messiah, the Son of God who has come into the world. That's as far as she can get right now. But you can't blame her. It's not like we would have it. It's not like her sister has that faith. What he's about to do has never been done before. But presence has a face, and it looks like Jesus, right? So Martha went back, took her sister Mary's side. The teacher's here. He's asking for you. When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet entered the village, was still right there where Martha left him. She probably said, wait here. Ran home, got Mary. Jesus is here. He wants to talk to you. So what does Mary say when she shows up? Same thing. She fell on his feet and said, Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. It's fair, right? If Jesus had been there, he would have done something. We know that. We believe that. But again, even Mary, even though she's heard everything Jesus has to say, she doesn't know what he's going to do. You can't blame them for not knowing what he's about to do. You just can't, because no one's ever done it. But when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. This to me is remarkable. He's the only one in this story that knows what he is about to do. In fact, he has saved his greatest miracle on earth for these three friends of his. He told his disciples, I'm glad this is going to happen because it's going to build your faith, what you're about to see. He knows what's going to happen. And yet, when he sees Mary weeping, when he sees the people around her weeping, he is troubled in his spirit and says, where have you laid him? And they said, come see, Lord. And they took him to the tomb. Shortest verse in the Bible, John 11:35. Trivia question, if you ever asked it on Jeopardy. Shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept. I remember when I read that, why is he weeping? You'd be thinking he'd be holding back a smile, wouldn't you? Wait until you see what I'm going to do. I can't hardly wait. You think he'd be excited. Jesus wept. Why? Why did Jesus weep? This troubled me, by the way. There's many verses in the Bible that does. It troubled me. Why in the world would Jesus weep here? And then I got it. He knew that he was there to raise him from the dead, but he wept because we were not supposed to bear the pain of grief. You were not created by your Creator to grieve. Do you understand that? And a lot of us, many of us have been through grief, some real grief in our lives. We weren't created for that. Our souls were not created to handle grief. God didn't create that. Sin created that. Jesus sees them all weeping and realizes this was never supposed to be like this. Humans were never supposed to go through this. You weren't created for grief. Even Jesus weeps when he sees that. That's kind of remarkable, though, and it shows you how Jesus entered into all of this. He wept, he shed tears. By the way, they have two different versions for weeping. The weeping the other people were doing was loud and dramatic. I don't know if you've ever been to or seen anything like the people at the Wailing Wall. Jews are good at it. They wail, they weep. It's a bit of a show. They really are sad. Mary was just crying. That was true. But the people there, they're kind of professional weepers. Being dramatic and everything. You see that sometimes, but not often around here. But sometimes you'll see somebody just being a bit dramatic about it. And they're kind of going over the top there, so everybody knows they're suffering. But Jesus, the word they use for weeping is private. It's a very private thing. He felt it, and he cried real tears, and he felt it intensely, personally, but it wasn't loud. That's just a different kind of a weeping is what the Greek here says. Deeply moved in spirit and troubled. These are present tense human emotions. I want you to see that. The crowd knows. They even said, see how he loved him. They see it, right? This is not a God who used to be compassionate or will someday be compassionate. This is a God who weeps with you now in the moment of your sorrow. Don't ever let anyone tell you that future hope should cancel present grief, because I've heard that. Hey, it's okay. You shouldn't feel sad because one day, so just take your grief away. Cast it aside, because one day it'll be different, right? That doesn't help you now. You're allowed to grieve. You're allowed to grieve. Don't live in it. Don't wallow in it. But you need to get through it. I mean, grief's a thing, and you need to get through it, and don't let somebody steal that from you. You're allowed to. You're allowed to grieve. And then you clean off your tears, and then you face tomorrow. But it's okay to go through grief. Don't feel guilty for that. Don't let somebody take that from you. That's a lie. All right. Here's the problem. We're all Martha. We are. Christianity is made of Marthas. Most Christians are Marthas. We love what Jesus did, right? We celebrate what Jesus did. This church is full on the days we celebrate what Jesus did. Christmas, everybody will be here Christmas Eve. We got them. Easter, couldn't find a seat. We love what Jesus did. We love what he did on the manger by coming. We love what he did on the cross, and that's where we keep it. Or we commemorate it, and we will post online. But the Jesus who did is not the one who costs you today. A historical Jesus isn't going to make any demands on you this Thursday. That's just somebody who lived then. He's historic. We're okay with that. We're also okay with the future. We love to talk about what Jesus will do. We love to talk about what heaven will be like, the new creation. We sing about that, right? We're happy about that. We comfort each other with it. But the Jesus who will be is not here asking you right now to be with him. We're just like Martha. We want to keep Jesus in the past, or we want to talk about Jesus in the present. The problem is that just like Martha, we're missing the Jesus of the present. In Matthew 18:20, he says, where two or three are gathered. Oh, just a second, let me count. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we're more than 2 or 3 here. Just checking. Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, I am there in the midst of them. Present tense. Not the Jesus who was, not the Jesus who's coming. Right now, right here. Jesus promised, I am there. And Jesus can't break a promise, which means he's here right now. But if you keep talking about Jesus who was, and you keep thinking about Jesus who will be, you're missing the fact that Jesus is here right now, and he wants you to listen to him. He wants to speak with you. I am, he says. We treat Jesus like a historical figure we admire or a future hope we're counting on, but he keeps showing up in the present. And we keep missing him just like Martha was. We have the same problems. All right, I got to finish the story. That's kind of my sermon. I want to finish this story just in case anybody doesn't know what happens with Lazarus. I think you all do, right? When he had said these things, when he's done weeping, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." And he who had died came out bound hand and foot with the grave clothes still on his face. His face was wrapped with a cloth. And Jesus says to him, "Well, loose him. Take that stuff off him and let him go." I want you to see, though, because this is God. He does miracles and always wants us to contribute. Do you think those cloths could have just fallen off of him? Do you think that it could have burned off his body as he stepped out? You know, Jesus could have had him come out, and he could have come out, just like, "Oh, yeah, guys, no face." No, because the community is going to help in the resurrection. Yeah, their job's small. Take the face cloth off him. Get the man some clothes. But Jesus wanted the community to be part of it. He always does, by the way. Why do you think he has us pray for people that he's going to heal? So we can be part of it. This is what happens. This is the interesting thing here. Jesus says, "Lazarus, come out," and he comes out. Of course, they had a grave site there. When Jesus is buried, there's nobody to call him forth. He brings himself forth. But there's a stone in front of the tomb. And the Bible says that that stone is rolled away. We know that. We have songs about the stone was rolled away by an angel who then sits on top of it and waits for the women to show up and find that Jesus is gone, right? Why do you think the angel moved the stone away? Because Jesus couldn't get out? You think Jesus isn't there pounding on the thing? Boom, boom. "Hey, help, because I'm going to open this door for me." We know that's not true because we know that Jesus walks through walls in just a couple chapters, right? He could walk right through that. He didn't need that rolled away for his sake. He needed it rolled away so when the women showed up, they could see because there's nobody there. It's interesting to me that Jesus took care of that little detail. But here, he wants the man to come out with everything still on him so the community could be part of it. In the same way he wanted the women to be part of his resurrection, he wanted the community to be part of Lazarus' resurrection because God shares it. He shares these moments with us. That's why he does it this way. It's remarkable, but that's for some reason God likes to keep us involved, right? But again, watch, Lazarus come out. It's a present imperative command. It isn't, okay, one day Lazarus will rise. He shouts in the present tense with present power. He is not raised by the memory of Jesus or the hope for a future. He's raised by the living voice of the living God who's speaking right now. And the Gospel of John, by the way, is not a record of what Jesus did. He makes it clear. I'm telling you these things so you will know who Jesus is. Present. Jesus is present. He is here. He wants to speak to you. He wants to be part of your life. He wants you to know him the way he knows you. And he's calling to you constantly. And we're not hearing him because we want Jesus in the manger or when Jesus coming one day on a white horse. We don't want a Jesus who's going to interrupt our life right now. But that's the Jesus we have. Present tense faith is not a feeling. It is a decision to stop living at the tomb or at the promise and instead to meet Jesus where he already is, which is right here and right now.